Hi, this is Michael from the Brandjectory team. Welcome to the site overview for a brand. After we sign in, we start on the home page for the brand. The layout is very similar to social media. You have a billboard image, a profile picture, a name and title, the company logo, and the company name. On the top, there's a menu for the different pages on the site, messages, notifications, and account management, as well as editing your profile. At the top section of the page, there's an executive summary of the brand, the primary category, the revenue range, and the blended gross margin. There's also a summary listing of the different attributes across the brand. There's buttons in this area for the different key pages of the site, which we'll get to momentarily. And the core of the page is divided into three sections. Here is a summary of the brand, contact info, and product links. On this side, there's a history of recent communications and investors who have recently viewed your page. In the middle is where you can communicate and post all of your information to keep your investors updated. The posts here in the middle are your posts that have originated from your account, and then any additional comments or likes that have been made to them. On the newsfeed page, all of the posts that you've made, as well as posts of people that you're connected to in your network, as well as comments and likes, are listed. Before I move on from this area, I want to reiterate the importance of posts by brands. This is your opportunity to share your story to investors who might be reviewing your profile. They want to understand how you're doing in the market. The things that you can post about would include new accounts that you've opened, new distribution, new items that you've introduced into the market, new key hires, marketing and demo performance from campaigns, and other things that might help tell the story about your brand's progress over time. When you post here, investors who are following you or are connected to you automatically get those communications in their news feeds, so they can keep up to date with you on a real-time basis. Beyond the updates that you post, the About page is your opportunity to paint a full picture of your company. You have an overview, how you're differentiated, categories and items, your attributes, your market traction, the people in your company, summary financials, product information, and documents. You'll see as I go through this that not all information is available immediately to an investor unless you approve them as a connection, and not all fields are required. For starters, the company overview includes your company overview and your mission. Within your differentiation, it's your opportunity to talk about your unique selling proposition, as well as your IP. Under categories and items, here you would identify your product type, your primary category, and any additional categories that might apply. Summarizing your existing items in the market is simply the count of items and the time that they've been in the market between the newest items and the oldest items. If you're working on any innovation for new introduction, you can identify that here with the number of items and the estimated launch date. You would identify your attributes across the brand here. And in the traction section, you can identify which distributors you're working with, the retail channels you're selling in, whether or not you have any international distribution, and the store count for your brick and mortar locations. For your key people, add profile information about experience and background information for people across your executive team and yourself. And you can also include information about advisors. On the products page, there are two options for you to display your product information. The first is to upload pictures about your product and to create a profile of your product from an investor point of view. In other words, this is not a consumer presentation of your product information, but how you would speak about your products to an investor. For starters, of course, there's the identification of the categories, the product attributes, a description about the products, how they're differentiated, your target customer profile, and the flavors of or product types within your product line. The second way to display your product information is to actually embed your product page here on the Brandjectory site. In this example, the product page for this company from their consumer website is listed here. And this is a live page that I can click into and see more information. One thing to note is that Shopify websites do not permit embedding their URLs into other websites. So Shopify websites will not appear in Brandjectory. If you have a Shopify website, just use the Brandjectory structure for your product display. Let's move to the financials page. On the financials page, there's 3 sections: a summary of financials, your capital structure, and raise status. Under the summary financials, there's just 3 years: your last year, this year, and next year, and 3 metrics: revenue, gross margin, and EBITDA. Under capital structure, you can list your current investors, the total amount of capital since your founding, and the percent of equity owned by outside investors. And under raise status, you can identify whether or not you're raising, the round that you're raising, the amount of capital that you're seeking, the form of capital, and your use of funds. One thing to note is that these 3 sections, the summary financials, capital structure, and raise status, are controlled by you in terms of their privacy settings. You have the option to display this information to any investor that visits your site, or you can opt to display this information only to an investor after you have accepted them as a connection. From a setup perspective, let's finally look at documents. The Documents library allows you to upload files for investors to see. Only investors who you have accepted as a connection are permitted to see your documents. The Documents page is not visible to anybody who visits your site unless you give them permission. The library is organized into a pitch deck, business plan, executive summary, financials, and any other materials. You can upload document files or URLs that direct to other documents that are stored by other services. You have the ability to replace a file or to delete a file entirely. When an investor is a connection and they can access your documents, they can download your documents or they can save them to their own library. If an investor connection saves one of your documents to their Brandjectory library and you replace it on your side, they will automatically get a notification that a new file version is available. And they'll just click a button to refresh the file and the newest version will be available. Now that we have our profile fully set up, let's see how we can find investors. To search for an investor and let them know that you're on Brandjectory, we send a signal. A signal is a notification to an investor that you would like them to check you out. You can search for investors based on 4 different criteria: the product types that they invest in, the revenue range that they invest in, the type of investor, and the location where they invest. Some regional groups invest only within a certain geographic area. And click search. You'll see results that look a little something like this. The results will display information only about the type of investor. You have the option to select each individual one, or you can select them all and send them a signal. Once the investor receives a signal, they can click right into your profile. Sending a signal to an investor does not give you the option to view their profile just yet. But when an investor is interested in you, they will send you an invitation to connect. When an investor conducts a search, the search results allow them to take 3 different actions. They can click into your profile, they can choose to follow you, or they can connect directly from the search result. Following means that an investor receives your updates directly in their newsfeed. So any posts that you make or any comments that you make are automatically sent to the investor in real time, so they can follow your story and watch you as you grow. If an investor wants to connect to you, they would send you a connection request. So when an investor looks at your profile, they'll see this information before they're connected. They can see your homepage and your posts. They can view your about page. They can look at your products, and they can view your financials. On the financials page, if you chose to set your privacy settings for any of the sections on this page, the investor would see a message that this information is only visible to connected investors. As the investor reviews your profile and decides that they want to learn more about you, They can choose to follow you and receive updates from your posts right in their newsfeed, or they can choose to connect to you. When an investor chooses to connect to you, you'll receive an invitation. From your home page, you'll receive an indication that you've received a connection request. In the request, you have the ability to accept it or to decline it. But before you do, you might want to take a look at their profile. When you review the investor's profile, you'll see a very similar setup to the brand profile. You'll see the posts that they've made here on their homepage and a summary of company information here. But you can learn more about them by clicking on the About page. And on the About page, we can learn more about them with an overview, their investment criteria, their team, and their portfolio companies. In this case, this investor is an angel. They've listed their company information and their mission. They've identified their investment criteria. They've listed who their key people are with their backgrounds and experience. And they've identified their portfolio companies, past and present. After you've reviewed the investor profile, you can return back to the home page and you can take an action to accept it or to decline it. If you accept the connection, you'll receive a message reminding you that when you accept the connection to an investor, you're giving them access to your privileged information. Once you've accepted the connection request from an investor, they'll appear here in your connections page under connections. Also on the connections page would be investors that are following you. If you have any pending invitations, your groups and group invitations that we'll get to in a moment, and any signals that you've sent. Speaking of signals sent, here's how you would be able to see who you sent your signals to and when. You can send a signal to an investor once every 91 days. Since investors are joining Brandjectory on an ongoing basis, it makes sense to search for investors to send signals to on a regular basis. If you've sent a signal to an investor within the last 91 days, they will not appear in your search, but they will appear here in your signals sent. Once I'm back on the connections page, to chat with an investor, just click on the message button, and a chat box pops up. Here I can type a message. If a connection is online, you could also have a video call with them. The other place to manage communications and messages is in the My Communications library. Here you'll see a history of your communications. Finally, let's take a look at groups. Groups are an effective way to trade information and to have conversations in a private setting with an individual or with a group of individuals. Groups are a way for investors and brands to share information about a diligence process, whether it's communications or documents. All brands, when they join Brandjectory, are included in the brand community. The brand community is an opportunity for you to interact with all founders on the Brandjectory platform, but no user can click into another user's profile. So this is an opportunity to interact with other founders, trade story, ask questions, seek wisdom, answer questions, trade best practices, or just chat about something that's going on. Just like on your homepage, you have the ability to post, comment, and like. Groups also has a document feature, so you can save documents right here in the group. Thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing you on Brandjectory.